Hello, and welcome to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast, a weekly conversation with women who found their home in the Mojave Desert. I'm your host, Dawn Davis, and this is episode number 26. If you're a first-time listener, welcome, and if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. If you're looking for more information about the podcast, past guests, want to catch up on previous episodes, or just want to drop me a line, it's all at the website desertladydiaries.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Desert Lady Diaries. You may know this desert lady from her Instagram account, Wonder Valley Domes. This week, we're talking to Lindsey Anderson. Welcome back to Desert Lady Diaries. Today, my guest is California native Lindsey Anderson, who spent 12 years in New York City producing theater, film, acting, and making weird art. After years of working jobs she didn't like to pay rent she didn't need, she now lives in a 1975 Winnebago named Winnie in the high Mojave, building free art studios out of sandbags and earth. Her current projects include digging, refining, and sculpting clay, establishing a tool library for Wonder Valley, the community where she lives, and directing community Shakespeare. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Delight.
So, how long have you been a permanent resident of the desert? Let's start there.
July of 2016. That's when I moved. And,
okay.
Yeah.
And what was your very first encounter with the desert?
Well, I had been to Joshua Tree for my birthday and hiked there. But my first encounter with Wonder Valley was in April of 2016. Earlier in that year, I learned about super adobe, which is the natural building technique that I'm utilizing on my property to create these art spaces. Took a course at CalEarth, which is the Institute of Earth and Architecture. It's in Hesperia. It's a wonderful place.
Oh, cool.
It wasn't very long after I learned about that building technique and knew that it would be good to have in the desert that I was talking with a friend and just telling her about the building method, and she said, "Oh, man, I've got 5 acres in Wonder Valley. I'd sell you for like $9,000. I just need the money so bad." I was like, what? 5 acres of land. Where? In a place called Wonder Valley. I'm a sucker for poetry. And then it was this very synchronistic thing of the next weekend I just happened to be coming to the desert with my friend, and I said, "Can we just take a little detour?"
It's not really a little detour.
No, it was like an hour and 45 minutes out of the way, and the property had no address. There was like a 5-mile square radius where I was looking for it. All I had to identify it was a photo of this shack that was on the property, and if you've been out to Wonder Valley, there's shacks everywhere.
Right.
There was a homesteading act there in the 40s, and the government gave away these plots of land to pretty much anyone who would commit to building a structure on them. Mm-hmm. A lot of people went for it, and there was expected to be this boom, and then the infrastructure never really came out. The climates and conditions are really harsh out there, and so a lot of people wound up leaving, and the cabins went vacant or abandoned. So it's dotted with these little homestead cabins that are all kind of falling away, and so we're driving out on these sand roads and looking for this. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. Keep going. And she had like a nice car.
I was just going to say, do you remember what you were driving?
And it was one of those things where I just thought, oh, we're going to get a flat tire out here.
We're stuck in the sand.
Yeah, I said, okay, let's just go down this one last road, and if we don't find it, then we'll just go home. And, of course, there it was, and I walked up to this shack, and I just had this feeling that I had really never had before, and I just felt like I was home, and this is where I was supposed to be. And then, of course, nailed on the shack was a notice that it was going to be sold at the tax auction in 2 weeks for non-payment of back taxes.
Did she know that?
No, because she hadn't been there in years. And she knew she was falling behind on the taxes. She was kind of in some financial trouble. That's why she was looking to sell the property. But the notices were going to her old address. So if I hadn't gone to look at the property and not given up, she would have lost it. Yeah. So
holy smokes.
Yeah, I was grateful she paid the taxes. She gave me a little discount on the land, and
nice.
Here I am.
That's wonderful. So you get your 5 acres, and now how do you decide that this is what you're going to do?
I had this idea to build an art space, a space for artists, pretty quickly after I learned about the building technique. I'd always had a desire to build my own home, but I felt that it was something that was not going to happen on an artist salary. And so I was looking into
And were you in LA at that time?
I was in LA.
So particularly in LA. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I was kind of looking into alternative building methods, tiny houses, shipping container homes. And, I don't want a tiny house. I want a big house for all my friends and my stuff. And Super Adobe seemed like a feasible way to build that. Initially, I was going to come out with 2 friends and was going to be a team effort to build this place. And they pretty quickly, each of them figured out that the desert was not a place for them.
What time of the year was it?
Well, it was July. So,
hello.
Yeah, it was.
That's the make or break. That's when I came out and was kind of putting my toe in the water. And I ended up house sitting for a guy who has a Airbnb up off of Onaga. His grandparents built the house. Wow. So there was no swamp cooler, no air conditioner, just fans. And I thought, you know what? This is going to tell you whether you can take it or not. And be that as it may, though, even though it's warm in Joshua Tree, it's even warmer 30 miles east in Wonder Valley.
It was 125 degrees for many days that summer. Yeah, it was a really hot summer.
Yeah, and there's not really any place out there to get any relief other than maybe the Palms.
You can go to the Palms a few hours a week. It's open. Right. It's an amazing place. And there's the library in 29 Palms.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I spent the bulk of my summer of 2016 just on my property, sweating it out in an RV.
Where did you get the RV? Where did you buy that?
On Craigslist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I actually, I lived for about a week on the property of the family who sold me the RV. They were this wonderful, wild desert family with these 4 beautiful red-headed children with those clear eyes that like see into your soul. I remember the 4-year-old to me that my first day there was like, do you ever think that the world is God's brain and the sun is his eye and the moon is his other eye?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, Cedar, that's really cool. That would mean that you are in God's imagination. And she said, and you are too.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
wow.
Okay. Desert wisdom from a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
But it was a big ordeal getting it to my property. It was there for a while because it was still being worked on to get it just running enough to drive out there. But if it didn't have a license plate when we were ready to drive, and Dad is like born again, recovered meth addict, but still drinking his box of Franzia in the car, like little girls in the backseat, no seatbelts. So we're just driving out there, and I'm like, okay, I'm just putting angels around the car, and we're trusting. We just pretend we're in Mexico for right now.
How far did you have to drive it to get it to your place?
About 45 minutes. It was a memorable ride. He was actually like really opening up to me about his marriage, and he was having some trouble. And there was this song that's like, remember that Sunscreen song from the 90s? It was like a Baz Luhrmann commencement speech that was sort of set to music, and it was just like guy talking advice, sort of. Right. And that's his favorite song, and I was like, we're going to play this song, man, and I got it out on my phone and put one headphone in his ear and one in mine, and we're just listening to that advice, and he's crying in the car while he's driving.
What an experience. Yeah, oh my goodness.
It was wild.
Wow. How is it being out there? I mean, how close is your closest neighbor?
Not too far, about 1,500 feet.
Okay.
So about a little less than half a mile.
Okay.
My neighbors keep to themselves for the most part, except my neighbor Dogbite, who likes to come over and visit and help. He helps dig. And
how long has he been out here?
30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I met him. I moved in July. I met him in August. I was driving and near my place, and I see this guy walking with bare feet up the road. And
oh my God.
It's like 120 degrees, and I pulled over. I was like, do you need a ride somewhere?
Right. Oh my gosh. I saw a guy one time when I was driving out to the Palms, and he was walking on Highway 62, and it was summer, barefoot, and I thought, that is a line to the opening of some novel. Like, walking down Highway 62 barefoot. And I'm like, Now I got to write that
Yeah,
thing.
have you written that novel?
No.
Sounds good. I would read it.
Wow. So he's your neighbor. What's a typical day like? And if you're listening and you're on Instagram, you may already know Lindsey, in a matter of speaking, through her Instagram account, Wonder Valley Domes. I should have said that at the beginning.
That's okay.
That's kind of the way some of us meet each other out here, is through Instagram, and we really dig somebody's feed and reach out, or we end up meeting each other somewhere, and, oh, I see you on Instagram. Oh, what's your handle?
Yeah, that's
and
so
we
true.
meet each other.
Yeah, it's a cool, it's a good app. 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly. What's your typical day like out there?
There's really no typical day. I mean, it's hard to say, but these days I wake up anywhere between 4 and 6 a.m., not because I'm some evolved early riser, but because I've been experiencing a lot of back pain, and it is extremely acute at that hour.
Right. So, and do you think that's with the bags and all the work that you're doing?
The medical consensus is that I have a skinny, weak ass, and so my back is doing too much of the
Do you write a prescription for that? I mean...
Buns of steel, man.
Yeah.
So that's a new part of my life.
Oh, gosh.
I get up early, and I kind of walk around, and then, get to work. Mm-hmm. Once the sun comes up, there's various projects that I'm working on these days. I'm doing a lot of plastering. Okay. My first dome is completed. The construction of it is completed, but I'm working on covering the outside. There is a clay deposit on my land, and so that's been really cool because I've been digging that up. Well, I'm not actually, honestly, to tell you the truth, I haven't been doing so much digging recently. I have a lot of wonderful volunteers and a fantastic lover who's out there right now with me helping with that stuff, so it's wonderful to have that support. But we're digging up the clay and then mixing it and refining it and slapping it on the dome. And
fantastic.
So there's a lot of that kind of work. Sometimes Dog Bite shows up and he plays. Sometimes I have volunteers coming from, maybe they're coming from LA, or they're coming from, they're travelers elsewhere. They're already in the area.
And how do they find you? How do they know that you're out there doing this, and they're like, hey, we want to go help Lindsey out at her Wonder Dome place?
Well, some of them are my friends, and some of them are friends of my friends who've heard about the project. Some of them come to me from the Cal Earth Facebook group. Okay. A lot of people who take courses there are interested in getting more experience.
Practical application. Yeah.
Right, or they just want to see a dome structure finished in a different setting, and I've had a lot of great people come and help me through that resource. I probably, maybe slightly less than 10% of my volunteers have come from Tinder.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't a recruiting tool that I thought would be useful. No. But as it turns out,
that's amazing.
A lot of people see my profile when they're maybe traveling through, their backpackers or hikers or whatever, they're traveling through Joshua Tree. Right. This sounds like more fun.
Which is kind of why I got off it, because I was like, these guys are not here. Like, anyone that I'm interested in on there is not on the base. That's not my thing. Uh-huh. Yeah, they're just coming in and going out, and I'm like, you know what, maybe this isn't for you here.
See, that's perfect for me. I love that, right? Good. Like, that's just come and have a little, working. And then you go on your little thing. I'm busy here.
Oh, see, that was me about 3 years ago. I was there at that moment,
Okay, right on.
Yeah, I'm in a different place.
So, it's a mix.
Yeah.
And I'm on a website called HelpX, which is for people who are looking to work trade. A lot of people there are traveling the country. Maybe they can't afford to stay at a hotel, or they're interested in getting experiences working on farms or different places like that. And they, I have my places on there, and so they come, and then I feed them a little, and I show them the sites, and they do.
And what's that called? HelpX.
HelpX.net.
Help.
HELPX.net.
.net. That's interesting.
Yeah,
I had a friend who used to go to Hawaii, and it's one of the more popular of those type of websites. But I think he went to Hawaii twice and worked on some organic farm for 2-3 weeks, and got to stay there and stuff like that.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So those are interesting options for people if they are, maybe in a place where either they've just graduated from high school and not ready for college yet, or coming out of college and not ready to enter the job market yet.
Right.
Just kind of do a little exploring, because sometimes you don't know what you want until you've seen a little bit.
Yeah, or you maybe just can't afford to travel in the sort of traditional
Standard way,
sense.
right.
Yeah, and so this is a way of doing it on the cheap.
Cool. So when the volunteers are gone and before the lover showed up, and what was it like there for you on a daily basis? Were you there by yourself on many days?
Yeah.
And what was that like?
It was intense, Dawn.
Yeah, I can imagine. We talk a lot about that on here, about the silence. And I don't know if that was part of it. I mean, did it feel isolating, or did you feel like, you know what, this space and time that I'm in right now is where I need to be, and it may be difficult some days, and some days it may not be difficult, but this is where I need to be right now.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said it.
Okay. I should just shut up.
it's
I'm
like,
supposed to be asking you questions.
No, but yeah, it felt, it was exhilarating, and it's quiet, but it's also not quiet. When it's quiet, you can hear somebody knocking on the roof over there. Sometimes at night you can hear that, even though there aren't any around my place, there are electrical wires, and sometimes they make that weird buzzing noise.
Yeah.
Or animals, and the military base, of course, is not quiet at all.
No. I was in LA the weekend, and I came back and I was perusing like a couple of the Facebook pages, and people were like, what is going on up there? So they must have been really busy this past weekend doing some stuff.
I can't really distinguish a pattern yet, and I have yet to tour the base. That's on my list of things that I'd like to do.
I've never been on either. Yeah. So I hear it's huge and has every amenity they could ever want.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a much more
interesting.
fully functioning town than 29 Palms.
Right,
Yeah.
which is an interesting point. We won't belabor it, but that's a lot of what I think about when I hear the 29 Palms folks talk about this Project Phoenix, and we need to bring businesses to town. And that's a really hard sell when you've got a base right there in the same town that has fast food, it has movie theaters, it has, people don't need to leave. And that's really hard on the town itself. Yeah, I think.
Interesting.
So, makes me wonder how successful that project will be given proximity of the base and the number of people who live in 29 Palms. I know that it seems that there's a number of people that live in Yucca Valley that travel back and forth to the base for work, and there's a number of civilians too that are out there on a daily basis for work, a lot of jobs.
I think the biggest obstacle is honestly this huge highway that's going through it.
Well, there's that.
And for Joshua Tree,
Right.
for all of Yucca Valley, it's difficult to plan a cute little city that just like, wouldn't it be cool if the whole thing looked like the swap meet, That would be cool. It's possible.
I worry at the swap meet.
You worry?
Well, I don't worry. I've gone in there a couple of times, and I look around at some of the stuff that's in there, and I go, wow, this is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you peel that onion back a little bit, and you think about the money that people spent on the stuff, and now where it's sitting, and it really isn't in any condition for anything except maybe if you're working on, assemblage art.
Yeah.
So it's a freaking gold mine for that, but
Which
it makes me sad, I guess, to see it. That all that stuff. I mean, I went to the. Do you know the Rose Bowl flea market that they have like once a month or something?
In Pasadena?
Yeah, and I went there with a friend of mine. She was visiting from out of town, and they just happened to have it that weekend. And we went up and we walked past a couple of places, and then we came upon this area that was all clothing and shoes. And there was a tarp that was probably the size of a quarter of a football field, filled with shoes.
Yeah. And you never bought a new pair of shoes again. Is that?
No, but I just looked at it and I was like, wow. And I think about the number of people who are without currently in our world, and I look at that and it just gives me a weird feeling.
Yeah, the allocation of waste is poor. Since moving here, I've become a dumpster diver. I've probably live on a third of what I used to, and I'm very interested in trash, and I use trash and I use discarded materials for a lot of the stuff that I make. So I have a different relationship to trash and junk in general. But it is staggering sometimes to see the amount of it.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say. We just both looked at each other like, are we really seeing this right now? Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
Hadn't made an impression on you.
Yeah, definitely. So
When I spent December of 2016 in Standing Rock, and there was a huge amount of clothing donated to that cause, so much that it was a burden on the camp. A huge burden. I mean, we're talking semi-trucks would arrive daily, filled with garbage bags of clothing that we didn't really need. And so then there was this whole effort to get the clothing to other reservations and homeless shelters in the local area.
Reallocate
but it was it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Probably we never need to buy another new piece of clothing again. There's enough. No one on the planet.
I keep whittling down my closet. Yeah, because I think if we all think about it, usually we grab the same 2 or 3 items on a regular basis, and the rest of it kind of just sits there. And so my new rule is kind of 6 months, not worn, see ya. Yeah. And I'm slowly whittling down even further. So, and I don't know whether that's an age thing or just being conscious of how, like you said, how you're spending and what you're having, that kind of thing.
Yeah, what you want to keep. I love clothing and I love style and fashion, and so I tend to hold on to stuff. I tend to hold on to clothes, but I've been through purging phases for sure.
So you're building all these domes and art studio. What is the eventual goal of all of this on your property once you're completed?
That's a great question. The goal is to have many facilities for people to come and make art. So if you're a painter, you can come and stay in the painting dome. If you're a builder, you can stay in the carpentry dome. So I'd like to have different domes for different purposes, and then a number of permaculture techniques that are utilized on the properties. I'd like to expose people to these alternative building methods. They're obviously not going to be for everyone, but I think it's beneficial to see that there are other ways of building homes and gardening with using fewer resources. And also I'm working with getting more involved with the community. Teresa Stitz has recently taken over the position of
community
she's
center.
The community community. I'm not exactly sure what her official title is, but she's running the community center out there.
Might be like program director or something to that effect.
I'm embarrassed that I don't know, but it's okay.
She'll forgive
me. And so we're working on establishing a tool lending program for Wonder Valley. A lot of people build out there, and 29 Palms itself is 25 minutes away from where I am. And then if you need something that's not available at one of our local hardware stores and got to go all the way to Home Depot in Yucca Valley. So there are tool libraries, they're often called, and there's a number of successful models. Denver and Seattle have great tool libraries. And you pay a yearly membership fee. Usually it's around somewhere between $50 and $100. And then you can come in and you check out a tool just the same way that you check out a book. So it's a cool way to share resources. Often there's maybe, depending on where you live and how densely populated, hundreds of tools around you with all your neighbors just sitting in their garages but not being used. So this is a way
or at the swap meet.
Sure. Sure. So this is a way for people to come and have tools at their disposal, so people save money. You don't have to necessarily buy a tool you're only going to use once or twice a year.
Right.
And also save on that commute time. That's one of the projects.
Well, that's neat. And, I just had this thought of even having a bulletin board there about what kind of project you're working on and when you're working on it to get people to maybe that want to help.
Sure.
It's almost like that old-fashioned idea of a barn raising, where the community comes together and they hammer and nail and people make food and stuff gets done.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And you've all helped do it, which is really cool.
Well, Teresa's awesome, and she's definitely going to be doing a lot of fantastic stuff for the community out there. So
that's great. Well, and she already is. She presents on the Municipal Advisory Council and very involved with getting a lot of good programs out there and getting the neighbors out to talk about their issues and what's happening. So she's the perfect person for that.
Wonderful advocate.
Yeah, for sure. So living out there in Winnie the Winnebago, I have some logistical questions
Oh, great.
about how do you charge your phone? And do you get service out there? Do you get Wi-Fi out there? And I saw your compost toilet situation.
Yeah.
And then your water situation. How is that all coming together?
So the property is completely off the grid, meaning it is not there's no city water at all in Wonder Valley, and there are no electrical lines to my property. So I have 45 watts of solar on top of my Winnebago, which is not very much, but it's plenty to charge my phones and LED lights to light the Winnebago, and I need a new charge controller or maybe another panel. I can charge my laptop, kind of, but it uses a lot of the battery. I mainly use it to charge my phone and lights. Water, I haul it. I just have 5-gallon containers, and if I leave, I fill them up.
Have you thought about bringing the big water tank out?
Well, I would like to build a water cistern. Actually, last weekend, I got an above-ground pool, and it holds 2,000 gallons.
That somewhere. Oh, maybe on your Instagram.
Probably on the Instagram. It's the only, I don't have a website. I just have it's all I can really manage.
Well, and I watched the video, which was really awesome. So I'll put the link to that in the blog post when I put up the episode. Yeah.
Oh, neat. Thanks. Yeah. Now I actually have 2,000 gallons of water on the property, which I use for building and landscaping for water. Landscaping water, and then drinking water I'm still hauling.
Sure.
And eventually the goal is to set up rainwater catchment for the bulk of my water that I'm not using for drinking. There's not much water out in Wonder Valley or 29 Palms. I think it's an average of 4 inches a year, but some years it's 1 inch or less.
Laundry.
However, we have these washes.
Right.
And it's a huge flat space, so you can actually get quite a volume of water. And if you put a catchment system in a wash, you get a light rain, you can catch 1,000 gallons of water.
That's pretty good.
If you have several of those, you can really have a lot of water. Going to take some upfront labor, but not a whole lot of cost, and you don't have the maintenance of a well. A well is very expensive.
Would it be about $30,000 to dig a well?
I think they're 20 or around there. 20
and
or
it's probably
30
about the same to bring the electric if you did that, right?
Maybe even more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a price tag, which for me right now is completely out. Like, forget it.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
just trying to give people who are listening an idea of what that kind of thing
costs.
Can run you.
Sure. It can be very expensive.
Yeah.
But it's neat because those limitations are causing me to make choices that I think in the long run will benefit me financially and are better for the environment too. That's a nice perk.
Yeah.
I don't claim to be an environmentalist, but Oh, right. There's no bathroom, so I have a composting toilet, which is just a 5-gallon bucket with sawdust in it. And right now I'm burying it around plants, and that's fine for now because there's not a lot of volume in there. But this year I'll get a proper composter so that can be soil that I can use in 6 months for agriculture. Yeah.
Cool. So you're managing.
It's kind of like permanent camping.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I would even say glamping because I'm not sleeping outside or in a tent.
No, exactly.
My Winnie is awesome.
Well, and I love how you have the structure, the homestead structure set up based on what I saw in the video.
Yes. So
it's amazing.
Thank you. People really love it. For those of you who are listening, it's one of these old, sometimes they're called jackrabbit homestead cabins.
Like a minimum, I think, was 10 by 12. They had to build at least a 10 by 12 structure, if I'm recalling correctly.
I don't know those numbers exactly what the minimum was. Okay. Mine is 25 feet by 26 feet, including the porch.
Okay.
There's no walls on it, so it's just the just the wooden frame of the house. And then I have it furnished. Like a little...
Yeah, it's super cool.
So, and the roof is mostly still on it.
So you've got shade.
So I have shade.
Yeah.
And...
Because it's hard to come by out there.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless, there are some spots you can see where there's like what I call a neighborhood of maybe about 20 or so houses. Or like where Teresa and Ken are, they have canopy. There's some mature trees that have been there a long time and stuff like that. But otherwise, you're hard-pressed to find.
Yeah, there's definitely no shade on my property at all. Yeah. So the cabin provides like a nice sort of shaded congregate meeting area. And for me too, it's also a bit of an artistic homage to the area. Eventually those cabins are going to disappear. If time doesn't take them, then people are going to buy them and fix them up, or they'll get cleaned up, or...
I think we're here in a very interesting time. Do you feel that? I feel like we're here in the desert in an interesting time.
What do you mean?
Well, I've only been here 18 months myself, but it seems like there's a resurgence of, let's go out to the desert and make our life there.
It's definitely trendy.
Yeah. So that's where I don't know, how long that wave is going to last. I mean, I had Kathy Allen here earlier on in the podcast. She said she's seen at least 2 waves of resurgence and then a back off. And then another resurgence and a back off. So it's just interesting to kind of watch, I guess.
I mean, personally, I think in 5 years we're going to have the Hyperloop out here. It'll be 20 minutes to get here from LA. It's all going to be...
That's good for me because I still go in to visit. So.
Okay, well, there you go. You got to look forward to it. No, I don't know.
But I don't know where they put it. Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. Yeah, if we should enjoy
what we have right now. Yeah, for sure.
Because it's, neighborhoods are always changing.
Think back 15 years ago. In your life.
Oh, do I have to? Okay.
Just for a second.
Okay.
Did you ever think this is where you would be now?
Oh, goddess, not in a million years. No way.
How does that feel when you think about what your life was like 15 years ago?
Because if I think about what I was doing before and what I'm doing now and the way my life used to look and the way it looks now, it just shows me how much things can change, and we might feel stuck sometimes, but we're not. And who knows what my life is going to look in another 15 years. It's pretty wild to think about that level of change.
Well, I think I like to ask those kind of questions because I think it's important for people that are listening to the podcast and may feel like they're stuck or think, oh my God, how did she just uproot her life and move out to this desert, living in a Winnebago with no amenities? I could never imagine that, but you didn't imagine it either. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, it happened.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, things are happening around us all the time that we either say yes or no to. We either go down the road or we don't. And it's just sometimes amazing to think about how that happens.
Yeah.
But not to feel like that you're any less of a person for not taking that road, or because it all kind of happens the way it's supposed to, and to kind of get caught up in this A to B to C to D sort of life may not really be the way to go. Kind of have to go with the flow.
It wasn't for me. I've only recently become comfortable with saying that this move for me and this project really feels like mainly a spiritual quest. I feel like it was heavy guidance from the gods when I set foot on that property. It was
funny that you said you had a physical feeling because that's exactly what happened to me when I came up over the Yucca grade.
Yeah.
It was like I called it my stand up and pay attention moment. There was something in me saying, look around. I mean, it was...
Yeah.
It grabbed me by the shoulders, kind of, and said, look around, and within 3 months, I moved.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, it was that fast for me.
That for me, too, it was 3 months.
Yeah.
From when I first visited to when I moved.
So I think,
So don't visit the desert, people, unless
if you're not
ready for a 3-month rapid change in your entire life.
Well, and it was, I don't know if it was the same for you, but to me, it was this sense of, I'm being pulled here, I'm being called here, I'm being sent here. I don't know why, what for, but I'm open to whatever that might be.
Cool.
And that's kind of how I operated, because it was kind of like I was being carried. Everything that happened, like that Airbnb I was telling you about with that was a total fluke. I left LA, said to my friend, I just feel like this guy's going to house sit. And I was looking for a house sitting situation in July because I said, well, this will tell me whether I can really hack it here or not. And no sooner does it, the day before I'm to check out of the Airbnb, and he comes and says, I'm going camping in Denver. And I forgot to black out the dates for the Airbnb. And I was like, oh, what are you going to do? For real. Not even really making it. And he says, oh, well, you were talking about house sitting. And then I was like, oh, this is happening.
Oh, so it just worked right out. Yeah.
Exactly. So
What a psychic moment you had.
just paying attention to that stuff. Sometimes it's good for people to hear that they're not, I don't want to say the word crazy, but sometimes it feels, I mean, depending on where you are in your life, it can feel like,
it's
whoa,
what
what am
I
I
did
doing?
was pretty crazy. I wouldn't recommend.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend my path. I would say spend more time, visit more properties. Really feel it out. Like,
right. See if it's really something
Yeah,
where you want to be. And
Right.
yeah, can you hack, all
But
of
sometimes I feel that we stay in situations that we don't like, and we kind of convince ourselves that we do, or
we feel like we don't really have a choice. Like we feel backed into a corner, and I can't get out of this. But really, that is the
or
mother
I
of
want
invention.
something so bad I have to put up with this in order to get it.
Yeah.
And then you just all of a sudden you get to a point where you're like, okay, fuck it, I'm going to move into a van in the middle of the desert.
Right. Yeah.
I do feel part of what I'm learning by being out here is to just tune in a little bit more to my present reality, so I can,
Right.
and you don't trick yourself into staying in things that aren't for you
serving
anymore.
you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're growing, essentially, into a different person. I think that's a great place to leave this.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you.
And I will put all the links to CalEarth and helpx.net, and seriously, check out Lindsey's Instagram. It's really awesome.
Thank you.
And I will also put up for her website, because she's also an artist, and we really didn't even talk about that stuff. I saw you got commissioned for some wedding cake toppers and all kinds of interesting things.
I do a lot of,
Yeah.
I get some random funny commissions, and
That's cool.
they're a good time. But yeah, the Instagram also has like links to the volunteer forum if you want to come out and check it out and volunteer, or there's an Amazon wish list link on there if you want to send a tool my way.
Okay, I will put that on there. That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Well,
and
thank you
I
for
can't
having
wait
me.
to actually, one of these days when I go out to the Palms, I'm going to have to just make the trip further and just check out your thing.
Definitely come out and visit.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dawn.
Thanks so much for listening to the Desert Lady Diaries podcast. I want you to know how much I appreciate you taking the time to tune in. If there was something that enlightened or inspired you, let me know by sharing it with me and the other listeners on the Desert Lady Diaries Facebook page. Next week, we'll hear from transplanted Texan Tammy Wood. She's an assemblage artist and also the co-host of the I Heart Myself improv group. Now, let me ask you a question. Are you enjoying this podcast? If you said yes, I hope you'll go out and make some comments on the platform that you're listening from, whether it's iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, or Stitcher, and just let other people in on the little secret we have going on here at Desert Lady Diaries. Thanks so much for listening.